Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel, and welcome back to this, Terraform Series 2. So guys, in this session, we are gonna talk about variables in Terraform. So until now, we have put everything in one file, right? But everything in one file is just not great. We use variables to hide secrets. We don't want the AWS credentials in our Git repository, right? If we're just going to commit that file, together with our credentials, it is going to appear in the version control in our Git repository. And typically, we don't put credentials in our repository. So, we're going to move it to a separate file, and that separate file, we are not going to commit. Use variables for elements that might change. So, we are going to make the files a little bit more generic. The element that might change we can move into variables. For instance, we can do that with AMI. AMI are different per region, so it's a good thing to move the AMI to these variables, so that we can change them whenever we change region. You might even deploy your infrastructure in multiple regions. In that case, it's really good to have them in variables. You also use variables to make it yourself easier to reuse your Terraform files. When they are more generic, it's easier to reuse them for our projects, right? So first, this is our instance.tf file that we have been using up to now, right? And now, we are going to split this one. We are first going to make a provider.tf file. It's just going to contain the provider, which is AWS, right? Here we are not going to fill them out, we are going to refer to a variable. So whenever we are referring to a variable, we are going to use the $, then curly brackets, then var dot, and then the name of that variable. So as you can see, the name here of the first variable is AWS access key. Then we're going to create a file, vars.tf. And in vars.tf, we are going to declare the variables. So, you see, variable, AWS access key, variable, AWS secret key, and variable AWS region. If the curly brackets are empty, we are not defining a value. If we specify a default equals something, now, we have something as default. Then, a third file that we're going to create is terraform.tf vars, and in this, terraform.tf vars, we are going to put the values of our variables. They are still empty here. But don't worry. In demo I will fill those out. AWS access key, AWS secret key, and AWS region. Those keys equals value are going to be then our secret file, or our file with all the variables. And this is the one that we are going to put in our git ignore. Which means, it will never appear in our Git repository. Because we never really wanted the access key and the secret key exposed in our repository, right? AWS region, we can even leave this one out, because we already have a default value set. Only when you want to override the default, then you have to set it also in terraform.tf vars. And then lastly, we have instance.tf, where nothing really has changed. We just moved the provider AWS to a separate file. Now here, you can see that we still have the AMI ID filled out in this file, right? So now, let's have a look. What happens if we move this to a variable as well? So first, our instance.tf. Here, we are going to change the AMI ID into a lookup. So what does the lookup do? Lookup is going to do a lookup in a map variable. So here, we are going to create a map variable, here that you can see on the right-hand side. We are going to create a variable that is of type map, and it has key value pertinence. So, we see the default as US East 1, and then AMI ID, US East 2, and then another AMI ID. So what's going to happen if you take another look at instance.tf, where we do the lookup, then we see we have two parameters that we pass. First parameter is the variable itself, AMI, and the second parameter is the key that you want to look up. In our case it is AWS region, right? If the region is, let's say, EU West 1, then this AMI value is going to be AMI 0D729A60, which is the value of EU West 1 in our map. Now guys, let's have a look in this demo, how you can use variables in Terraform. So here, as you can see, this is my Visual Studio Code editor, and, in the left-hand side, you can see, I am in my Demo1 directory, which is present in our Terraform 2022 directory. And, as you can see, we have 3 files in it: terraform.tf, vars.tf, and provider.tf. So here, first we have instance.tf file, which contain one variable, right? And it is going to do a lookup using this var.ami, where all the AMI will be stored in. And it is going to look up this key, the AWS region. That means that, in var.tf file, we are going to have to set AWS region and AMI variable. And we are also going to set the AWS access key and the secret key. So, we are going to have to define those keys in a separate file. And we also have this provider.tf file. And in this file, you see provider AWS, and you see AWS access key, then secret key, then region equals variables. So this variable or declare in the vars.tf file. Here you can see the variable and the name, but they don't have a value yet, right? So this is what we are going to do in terraform.tf vars file. So first, let's create this file. And this is typically a file that we don't want to put in our version control, right? So here, I'm going to define my AWS access key, then my AWS secret key, and here, I could define my AWS_region, but I am not going to do that, because I'm happy with the default value. Same with AMI, I could override them, but I'm just going to use the default values here. So now, in our terminal, we're going to do Terraform plan to see what is going to execute. And as you can see, it's just going to launch this Oz instance example, using this AMI ID, using T2 micro. If you want to really test this, you can do Terraform apply, but isn't really necessary if you just want to test where it's working. Because if I would remove this tf vars again and do a Terraform plan, now, as you can see, it's going to ask for access key, and it's going to ask for secret key. So guys, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I will see you in the next lecture. If you have any question or any doubt, feel free to ask in the comment section below. I will answer you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. Bye and have a nice day.